How do I know that it's flat? So my secret, and people were laughing at me during the Rio Grande trip because when I told them, well, I'm just looking for donut on the road, and donut is
Welcome to Paramotor Adventure Stories, a complete guide to paramotor adventure flying. Here we are back again with our new chapter, and we will discuss with our guest Francois how to find spots for takeoff and landing, how to plan spots for takeoffs and landing. I'm not talking about improvising once you are in the air and you're forced to land, you run out of fuel, but before you actually start the adventure, you need to plan your spots. And there are a few ways that are kind of more obvious. Small airfields, soccer fields, and eventually beach. But those are the easy ones. You don't really need help with that. Find them on the map. Here we have Jean-Francois with lots of experience flying unsupported and supported long cross-country flights. If I count them together, they're probably 8,000 miles of flying. That must have been a lot of landings, so I'm sure you have plenty of experience how to find. So yes, let's make it complicated. Jean-Francois, please give us your advice on where to take off and land. But let's keep the simple ones, airfields and maybe beaches that it's kind of easier to plan. Let's make it tough.
all right. Now I was going to say that launching is one thing, landing is another. They are all in the same category, but whenever you are going to launch, you are assuming that you can do as many miles, but weather could be changing along the way. So that's not what I'm going to talk about. What I want to talk about is before you know where you want to land, you need to figure out the distance from your starting point, assuming that you will reach that LZ that will be the right spot. You know that in between things can change, but that's different. But now what we have is that when we did the Rio Grande trip, effectively now we had a group and we had to make sure that the distance we were going to fly over will be good enough for everybody and everybody that didn't have extra fuel bladder.
What distance do you usually plan?
We try to stay under 60 miles, like 50 miles.
Yes.
Because
same on our trips. So we
50 miles is the right zone, pretty much.
I mean, you know your flight range. You on your flights usually have a larger fuel tank or extra fuel bladder and so on. But then again, if you fly in a group, you need to be more conservative. So we had some beginner gliders in the groups, and obviously those can't cover the distance that far and long.
Now we have this possibility with the phone to plan as the trip change along the way because of weather pattern. So on this one, it was during the Rio Grande. What happened is that we landed at one airport, we launched from the airport, and we had to go as far as we could before the road started to split away from the Rio Grande, because we wanted to follow the river, but the ground crew had to follow the main road. So this one is the closest spot and the furthest spot. So furthest spot away from, and I will show you a furthest spot away from the airport, but the closest spot from wherever we could land where the road was going to split. And effectively you can see the split on the road, and now you can see the river is going to keep going and the road is splitting and going away. So I looked at that spot because I thought that was right next to a ramp and exit, which is very fine for the trucks to go and park, plenty of parking for the ground crew to park, and a nice flat area. So how did I determine that it was a flat area? That's very interesting. In the US it's easy to do, in other part of the world I guess it could be easy to do as long as you don't have a lot of grass and a lot of moisture, a lot of trees. But we know around here that there's no trees because it's Southwest New Mexico. Now in fact we're already in Texas, and I just see that area that seems to be flat, but how do I know that it's flat? So my secret, and people were laughing at me during the Rio Grande trip because when I told them, well, I'm just looking for donut on the road, and donut is when people get those cars, those sport cars or whatever, and they like to spin around. and make donuts because they make round circles.
Yeah.
So as soon as you see a donut, that means it's nice and sandy, and flat mainly. So I just zoom in, and when I zoom in, I see tracks, and I see this one is maybe more like a truck turning around because it is an exit ramp, but at the same time you can see effectively it looks like a donut meaning flat. And I look at the area, it seems to be like flat. I see more round circles here, some trucks, so that means you can pretty much land anywhere here. Yeah. And that's how we picked up that spot. I think it was very suitable. It was on the highway, ground support arrived before us, they put the wingsock, and bingo, everybody could land there. I think we were 8 of us flying to that spot that day. And the distance, I don't know, but it was maybe 40 miles from where we launched from.
This seems to be really a great spot because it seems to be large. Mm-hmm. And the Rio Grande, you were a large group with lots of support cars, so you needed a lot of space, so it seemed to be good. I can show you my spots on Iceland. Mm-hmm. So basically, this is south of Iceland. This is the really cool place to fly, but it's in easy and there's an airfield. But we wanted to fly in the backside. You see this beautiful contrast. So you have the glacier and this black volcanic ash. And here is somewhere the black volcano, the Melifell. Maybe you've seen it on the video.
The one we saw in the video, the beautiful one.
Yeah, so it's completely dark, black
and green,
flat, and then suddenly you have this green volcano. And we wanted to fly this one, and so I was searching for a spot in reasonable distance, and so the road 210, and it turns to F210, and F on Iceland means you can't really drive it without four-wheel drive. But we were in a van with a trailer. So we kind of had to stop at the end of the normal road.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Well, normal road, it was the dirt road, but at least doable. But here you need to cross rivers and without bridges, so it's definitely not something for a van and
nice
trailer.
Off-road,
so basically, I came to the end of the road. This is where the F-road starts. Here's a farm, and then we found a spot right here. And I was looking for the same things as you, so I wanted to obviously to be flat in open space in all areas. So I checked the terrain map, and looking at it, it seems to be pretty flat. Looking on the terrain, and then I tried to street view. Sorry, it doesn't work in these remote places. Far from any civilization, but street view is a good thing to check for power lines and fences.
Yep.
Fences. Obviously, there are no bushes, no trees. This is Iceland.
Yep.
So there's a joke. What do you have to do in Iceland when you get lost in the forest?
Look for the tree.
Stand up. Stand up because there are no trees. Eventually bushes, but no trees. And actually, there are some power lines here, and you can see the shade here, but the rest of it was good. So we were taking off on this road and on this little area. It was one of the tighter spots. It definitely was one of the tighter spots.
Short,
long in one distance only. So it was a bit crosswind takeoffs, but we had a very good team. The pilots were amazing. They did all very good job. We asked the farmer for permission, and he told us that he owns this part of land. We can take off anywhere, not on this one. And so there were some spots here, but that belonged to a different farmer that I couldn't ask for permission, so we stayed here. There were actually better spots for takeoff than there. This was one really remote place where no airfield. And then another one, we wanted to fly the West Fjords. Again, there's nothing here, not even proper roads here in the top. And what we did, we drove to the end of this road.
Winding road.
Here the road stops, and here in the north there are no more roads, but we wanted to fly the Hornvik, which is a beautiful place, massive steep rock cliff straight into the ocean with a waterfall straight to the picturesque.
That looks pretty remote.
Yeah, and we did a bivouac here. So we found end of the road, and this is a big bay and kind of looks pretty flat. Sorry, no street view. But what I usually do, I turn on these photos, and then you can sometimes check, and you see it's nice and flat. Perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
I mean, this could host a world championship. This was so big. That's yours. Okay, please have some comments on this.
This one was in Mexico.
Where is that? Where is that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. Backtracking a little bit.
Okay, now I know where we are. Good. Let's hope I find it back.
So I left from Cancun and I flew across the Yucatan, and from there I went toward that town of Motul because I wanted to go and reach that town right here, the little town of Checha. There. But anyway, I was flying in direction of that town of Motul, which was my direction of flying, and this one is more a section where I did improvise in one direction, but I will show you where I launched the day after. So what happened is that I was flying and I realized I was not going to get enough fuel to keep going. So anyway, I was flying on the direction and I saw that big piece of land right here that was open with no trees, and when I got closer I realized it was a farmland.
You can see the irrigation system.
Exactly.
That's a good sign, because that's probably, even when you check it on Google Maps, there won't be any trees if there is an irrigation system.
No trees, there were no cows. I always look for cows. If there's cows, I assume that the farmer could get mad at me.
Okay.
So if there's no cows, I would be like, well, okay, whatever, I'll take my chance, and probably nobody will see me anyway. When I landed, the farmer came and
asked for forgiveness instead of permission.
It was so lovely, so happy to see me landing there, and after he took me into his farm and we talked, and it was very, very fun. But that's where I landed on this one as emergency landing. I saw it from up high. I said, well, that's what my direction. I could see some green. I just got closer and closer, and I don't really like to walk, so I wanted to land very near that road right here. And in fact, I just landed right on that little square very close to the road. So it was kind of an emergency landing, but it was a safe landing. I researched the same features: flat, open, no power line, not risking to be too close to animals because people will not like that. So that are the main features for landing and launching. So I thought that the next day I was going to launch from there, but it would have been very difficult to launch because some of the grasses were already too tall. It would have been impossible to run unless running on that path where I had to have the right wing direction. So the next day, I'm just going to stay on the same subject. It was time to launch. So I was very near that town of Motul, and going to my app, I looked for a soccer field or a flat piece of land to launch, and I did find that nice open track and field. So that's where I launched from. So that's right in town, trees all around.
Yeah, soccer fields here in Central Europe are not a good option usually, because they have light poles. Is it called poles?
Yes, yeah.
Light poles around, and they're usually in the city, so you may have some turbulence. So the soccer field alone is large enough usually, right?
Yes.
But then they're surrounded by big trees, usually, and lights.
Yeah, which create issues. And
but this is Mexico, so they didn't have that infrastructure around it.
Exactly.
I mean, it looks like a glider ride, yeah, but it's irrigation.
Wasn't me. But for me, during that trip, I wanted to fly the entire trip, so I thought, well, maybe I could go to the beach, which is only 50 miles north of there, but I thought, nah, I'm still going to launch where I landed.
No,
and I could not do it,
hard.
so I just went back to that specific location. So that was my little LZ during that trip. That was very interesting, again, middle of nowhere. Next, what do we have?
A week ago, we were in Romania, and we wanted to fly, it's called Gemona, and it's a very interesting place. So here's a big, massive copper mine. You can fly inside in the middle of wild forests. Beautiful place. Kind of tragic because here there's a little river and it flushes all the dirt and toxic waste from the mine into this valley, which basically flooded the valley with the village, including the village, with the toxic waste. It's dead. There's no fish, nothing. It's really like these colors. There was no green.
And a lot brighter.
and they're more green on this
Yeah,
side. But so we were searching for a takeoff and landing spot that we could take for this flight, and in this nearby village, we found, just by looking at the village, here is something, right? And let's call it a crappy donut. It actually is a marketplace. So, as you said, you're searching for flat, open spaces, no trees, no bushes, power lines, and no fences.
And if you can, far enough from.
So, well, obviously,
people.
the problem
So it's in
here
town.
is that the satellite pictures in this area are not very good. There were actually some power lines, but you can't see them on the Google Maps here because the photos are not very accurate and precise. So we just double checked it here. That it is open, so you can access it, and you see some power lines in the back. So it was pretty good.
It doesn't look as friendly when you look at it from the street than when you look at it from the sky.
So yeah, so this is it. So it's what you measure is it large enough? Measure distance. It's 200 meters, plenty, right? So the length is plenty sufficient. It's an open space and the valley goes this direction. So usually the wind in the valley, you have this direction. So that was kind of okay. Then the power lines were
Far enough.
here you can see
Yes.
the shadow of the power. So the power lines were going on something like this way. So this was a little bit surprising. So although we planned to take off here, it turned out to be good, but not that well. So to summarize, on an adventure flying, I would say look for airfields, look for soccer fields and beaches if you fly supported. Look for truck stops, and if you are unsupported and you need fuel. And there are a few things to check. It should be flat, should be open, so no trees and high buildings around, because even if it's long enough, you may have turbulence. Check for power lines, which are pretty difficult to spot. You need to look carefully for the shades. Check for fences, which was the case in Iceland many times. It's a beautiful, nice field. Unfortunately, there was fence because of the sheep.
Yes.
Honestly, I don't think they would mind us crossing the fence. They just mind the sheep crossing the fence. And check Google Street View.
Yeah, that's a lot of information. It's a lot of details. So many places where we launch and land.
This is what makes paramotors so unique. Well, based on my experience, when I plan the trips, I'm a lot less concerned about where I'm gonna take off and land, because every time there was something.
You always find a place.
There was always
which
something.
is pretty amazing.
So the more experience I have, the more courage I have just to go and we will find.
You'll find.
We will improvise. So sometimes it happened that the spot that I looked for was not perfect because of power lines, or someone parked a big truck right in the middle of the field. Yet we could find other spot. It's not a problem. Good. There's one very important thing that we need to check when we are planning the trip. So that means when we are sitting at a computer and planning the adventure, where to fly and where to take off and land, and that's the aviation chart. So we will cover this in the next chapter. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for staying us. This was the Paramotor Adventure Stories, a complete guide to paramotor adventure flying. And stay with us for the next chapter. We will talk about the aviation charts and the airspace, how to get around above or under. Hit the subscribe button and see you soon. Ciao.